it's working.
Hey everyone! Can everyone gather around this area, please? Luke and Sophie, send more people this way. Right, we have a... Need to actually keep it so close. Ice cream cone, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So welcome everybody. We have a pretty good crowd and we have some fabulous panelists here. So we're gonna kick start. First of all, thank you all for making it here. And today's focus is gonna be around how to market your startup from a VC perspective. We have Chris here, that is from Darwin Ventures. He has experience in venture funds as well as working with a lot of accelerators. That's like the focus that he's gonna be on. We have Shobha, who actually has done everything. She's actually done the founding, the VC, the investing, and she is an advisor for a lot of startups, so we're going to get her perspective as well. And Prakash here is a veteran, and also he works for UK Government of Trade, and so we're going to get like that perspective as well. So let me pass around the mic so that we can get an introduction from the panelists. So close.
Now? Yeah. Good, perfect, great. Amazing audience, thanks everyone. Great to see the energy here just before we start. It's really amazing, everybody's connecting the dots, telling their stories. So my name is Prakash, thanks for introducing. So I actually started my career in pretty much in healthcare and life science sector. Actually, I transitioned from a biomedical engineering aspect to do something that I would never, imagine that I would end up doing, starting a couple of companies, both AI and healthcare space, and was fortunate enough to exit one, and also learned quite a lot by seeing the failure of the startup as well. That's what actually I learned quite a lot. And then I moved just typical way, went to do venture advisory, where I found that advising 20 plus growth stage startup company will never get bored. When you're a startup founder, you're married to one product, one idea for a long time. Then you learn the lesson and apply to a lot of companies that scale. And after that, I transitioned to learn something about international investment, because this is an area where we need a lot of global partnership. So I'm advising the UK government in terms of US and UK cross-border trade investment, innovation across frontier technology, including AI.
Hi everyone. I second that. Great energy, great crowd. Thanks for having me. I also started in healthcare and life sciences. Was on the path to become a doctor. Switched into tech halfway through medical school, and worked for either co-foundered or early employee of 9 different startup companies. A couple that had small exits, and now my sister and I have a fund that we invest out of, and also advise companies through plug and play, Alchemist, few accelerators. Yeah.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I just want to echo what the other panelists said. Awesome crowd. Got to walk around a little bit and hear from a few folks I know here, a few folks I don't. Everybody's building something awesome. That's what I love about San Francisco. A little bit about me. So I've been in tech for about 10 years. Multiple time founder. Spent a couple of years at Accenture doing corporate innovation, leading innovation teams there, working on a couple of applied R&D teams where we productize some of the R&D that Accenture was doing, working very closely with Accenture's corporate venture arm. And now I'm a partner at Darwin Ventures, which is a very entrepreneurial little outfit. There's about 15 of us in the firm. It's a little baby venture fund, and the majority of what we do is actually consulting and agency type support, go-to-market support for early stage, growth stage, and mid-market companies. So we'll deploy fractional sales teams, fractional marketing teams, RevOps, and things like that. We also do advising for startups, and we do mentoring for 500 Global, for Techstars. We're launching a couple of accelerators. So really, it's kind of a playground for me to do like all things Mitchell related on sort of every side. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to having a great discussion with you folks today.
So quick intro about myself. I am Sudha. I am the founder of Rava, an AI marketing platform. This is essentially predictive content generation for startups because startups and founders don't have time. So they need to stay up on top of trends. They need to stay on top of like their computers. So the platform automatically does recommend the content to write. You don't have to go do SEO or any of that. So that automatically takes care of everything. That's what Rava does. And my motivation for even like this panel essentially is I've gone to a lot of events in Silicon Valley as well as San Francisco. And one of the things I notice is that everything is founder driven. Sometimes a lot of questions for us are for VCs, like, hey, what do you guys invest in? Where are we like doing the wrong things, right things? What are the challenges? And that's mainly my motivation to put this panel together. So that's the question I'm gonna start with. With the myriad of like AI startups out there, and there's more and more and more coming up, what do you think are the biggest challenges AI startups are going to face in future? Because this is like 90s where there's internet companies booming and there's suddenly like a bust happening, and we are in that role. So I think if you think about 2017 to now, 2017 it was when VC investment started going down. With the AI innovations, it's definitely ramping up this year. But we want to understand from your perspective, what is the biggest challenges AI startups are going to be looking at in the next like year or the next 2 years? So Chris, do you want to get started?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's almost like it's one of the biggest challenges, but also one of the biggest opportunity areas. It's just the rate of innovation of like the core tech that powers some of these things, right? And so it's I'm sure everyone here can kind of relate. Like I've seen a lot of startups, a lot of products launched that you look at and it's like, wow, that's really amazing, but is that going to be a feature in the next release from OpenAI, right? And so there's like a lot of nuance here, I think, in terms of how dependent are you on the core tech that actually there's no IP associated with it, there's no mode for it there, right? So I think that's something that can kind of work with you and against you because the rate of innovation obviously is much faster. And you can build really amazing things, but again, 6 months later, will that be irrelevant?
I think if you're doing generative AI, having competitive advantage in whatever industry you're focused on, that's going to be the biggest challenge because there's going to be multiple companies popping up in every single industry. And whether that's your domain expertise that you have from education or from your work expertise that gives you that competitive advantage, whether it's marketing, whether all these different value addition, whether you have a better business model, etc. I think creating that value proposition in the marketplace that's different than other competitors in your specific industry.
Yeah. While you are at it, maybe I'll add a little bit of a positive twist to it, which is it's almost like demotivating to think about like all the negatives that will happen, but maybe there's an opportunity there as well. Do you see like there's challenges, but do you see any opportunities for these kinds of founders? Definitely speed to market. I think with software being so democratized, there's speed to market, but is there any positive that you see as well, especially in your?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do have the domain expertise and you can create a brand and thought leadership in your specific industry and create a real value add in any specific industry, then there's a marketplace that can grow and it's a true business model, then there are going to be lots of winners out there. So.
I completely agree with what the panelists just mentioned. I'm going to start with a couple of questions here. How many of you are here at a pre-seed startup, you got an idea, you think like you got a product market fit, and now figuring out how to build and actually delight the customers? And how many of you are, okay, great. And how many of you are actually, you think like you're past that stage and now you're facing challenges in terms of scaling, getting those gap funding and stuff like that? Great. It's a great mix-up. How many of you are sector specific? I don't care, whatever sector it is. Oh, love it. So there is a lot of confluence that I'm seeing here, and that's exactly what we should be looking at. So I'm going to break it into two pieces. One, if you're a startup founder, whether you had a previous success, failure, it doesn't matter. Everything you start from scratch again, right? You succeeded before, no guarantee you will succeed again. You failed before, there is, no certainty that nobody can prevent you from being a mega success the next attempt. So in the pre-seed stage, quickly figure it out because at that point your asset is you as founders. And that narrative doesn't change, even in the VC perspective. That is not going to change. Whether it is AI, whether it was the dot-com era, whether you are developing a consumer food, it doesn't matter. Look at the founder and market fit initially. Am I the right person? What is my purpose? Is it something that I'm going to marry for the next 5 to 6 years of my life? Because it's going to be tough. And if you pass that litmus test, okay, I'm in the right sector, I still don't know what problem and what solution, but I'm going to go and figure it out. Great, go ahead. And then at that point, very important, just like some of the panelists mentioned here, if you don't have the right expertise, let's say you want to build something, AI in drug discovery, AI in how clinical trial is done, AI how to tackle the climate problems of the world, right? Then figure it out, who do I bring in initially and involve those experts early on because they can validate in few things. A lot of time AI founders, they quickly jump into, I want to bring the best AI model to the market, the greatest AUC and stuff like that. But you will face challenges in terms of implementation. That is where a lot of people underestimate. A savvy venture capital investor is going to do that due diligence straight on. Where are you getting your data from? What are the 5 V's of the data? Velocity, veracity, volume, value. Does it all qualify? Am I getting the right source? Does the data coverage is great? Do I have a proper expertise on board that can take care of data privacy, data governance, etc., etc.? Because if you're just throwing garbage inside, it doesn't matter. You can have the best model. You can at best you can get some confounding models. And then do not look at what competitors are doing. Do not even look at what OpenAI and other people are doing. Because as it evolves, my feeling is that small language models and the medium scale language models will also have a great role to play. It's not just about mega Gen AI, LLMs and all that. If you can excel 10 times better in a very narrow field, straight on, it could be a very small thing, how I can design peptides, how I can design biologics, how I can tackle the failures of late-stage clinical trial, whatever it is, define the domain, go with that expertise, prove it out, create comments. Just once you have that prototype, after that, things will take off. So don't worry about the competitors. A lot of the people think about, right? And then if you're at growth stage and scaling stage, if you have already factored this thing well in advance, you have iteratively sown or learned what type of problems that might come in the future. At least you have the answers to play. At least you know that this doesn't work. So you know if you're failing really, really fast and pivoting very quickly to be able to go.
So an add-on question to that is speed to market become even more critical in this AI space? Because in tech, you could be working on a product for 6 months to like 9 months before even thinking about any pre-seed or even going into accelerators. But now with AI and becoming so competitive, is it more important for the people playing in the space to go very fast at it? And if so, how fast? Or from a VC perspective, what do you guys look for? Is it more you worked on something, committed to it for months at a time and okay to pivot? Or is it more you're able to prove a model really fast? Which one is, yeah, go ahead.
So I think in the beginning, as I said, of course, they say startup mentality is move fast, break things approach, right? But the key at this point is also a lot of time in AI, particularly in AI area, you're going to invest quite a lot on things, particularly on people, what technical capability that I'm bringing into the team and stuff like that. So that will decide how fast actually you can go. But I think agility is probably more important than speed. If you're agile enough from the very beginning and you see pitfalls, even if it is a financial challenge, in the beginning as you're bootstrapping, we're talking about pre-seed stage, and if you see that this is something going to be something that will require at least upfront $5 million, $10 million investment before I can before I can even buy the data to train my model. Whatever that is, go through that litmus test as quickly as possible. Spend like 3 months, really test the water. And then once you go, start pitching, and always we don't have to always listen to venture capital, right? So when I was in venture capital advisory, a lot of time, they also do mistake. And sometimes some of their inputs can be not necessarily correct. What you should be spending time instead is more time on customer discovery, actually, learning, because at the end of the day, who the end user is going to drive your business and drive the adoption of whatever you're developing. If you can't delight them, everything else falls apart. If you can delight them in the beginning, get some great endorsements, VCs will chase you at that point, right?
I guess he's pretty much summarizing some of the key takeaways, but how many here have heard founder mode or heard the word so far? Actually, that's the new thing. So I guess some of the things he's saying is that more than even the company, it's like the growth mindset, it's the adaptability, it's agility, it's having the mindset to go work on problems, work at it fast, and make something happen. And that feels like some of the key takeaways. And even adding on to it, domain specificity, if you have any domain specificity, work to your advantage. Make that even more your moat. That's what I'm hearing. And to add more, I think healthcare, is it being a little bit more challenging in terms of AI in healthcare, or is it very similar play? Because that's also some of your expertise. So I want to hear some of your take on that.
Well, I think I think healthcare has a huge space for innovation in general. Most healthcare practices and hospitals are operating on pretty legacy systems, and things are inundated. So there's a lot of room for improvement, and there's going to be at least 100 AI companies that come out in healthcare that radically shift the way that we're doing things in healthcare. So I think there's definitely a lot of space. I think it's who comes out with the right products at the right timing. I have to say timing is a lot of it. You're saying speed to market. I was advising a company who was doing AI for back-end finance operations. They had a lot of domain expertise at a lot of the big tech companies in back-end finance operations. They started their AI product 2 years ago. I made some introductions to VCs, and they kind of gave up on the VC route and started building their brand organically and started getting customers and actually building revenue, because a lot of VCs want to see traction in revenue. And unfortunately, suddenly that field of back-end finance operations in big tech companies becomes so hot that these huge venture capitalists like Menlo Ventures are pouring like $25 million into these nascent companies that have very little technology built. And it's suddenly the founder I'm helping is he's like, I'm going to be out of business soon. These companies are coming in, and the timing just took over. So it's kind of unfortunate. So
just at that point, if I can add, so VCs used to make such a IP used to be the core thing, and unless you have a very strong IP, you couldn't even approach VCs before, and you had to have some differentiator, some IP. And now you have an IP. 2 days later, someone is able to emulate that, or 2 days later, someone is gonna do better job at it, with the models, with the usage of any of these. So how does the role of IP change, or is there still a space for it? You pointed out a few things. I think speed is important, timing is important, and now with IP almost is non-existent right now. There's this whole word about coming from marketing. There's a word for Silicon Valley taste. Taste is their branding and all of that has become the differentiator as well. So what, in your sense, should be the IP that founders should focus on, or how should you think about IP now?
Yeah, I think maybe to kind of touch on what we just heard from the panelists and connecting to your question. It's pretty chaotic right now, right? This whole game's got pretty crazy. No one really knows what the hell's going on in a way, right? Our firm's called Darwinian Venture. something like a super appropriate name because we are operating on a highly competitive, ambiguous, uncertain landscape. And some of the things that we used to be able to hang our hats on, like IP, are suddenly commoditized. And so, I think it's just it's a new game. Like founder mode is kind of about that. That's that phrase, right? And so like we're in a war game. And so speed to market is important, right? Like retention is something that's big. So we see a lot of companies out there, who can grow really quickly, but there's no stickiness to the products, right? So if you achieve some kind of scale, but people drop out of your product after 2 or 3 months, your LTV is nothing, and your product's not sticky, and yeah, so I think, like, you have to find a way to win, right? And if it's not IP, like, what is it? And I think that's kind of been a question. And I think your go-to-market motion can certainly achieve that, and if you are able to retain folks, and, if you build a great, like maybe a really great consumer AI product, yeah, sure, maybe you can achieve the same result. Maybe people could, use other models, other tools to kind of do the same thing. But if your user experience is so good, your customer support is, if you have some reason for folks to stay in your ecosystem, you can win that way. Yeah. So I think my overall answer to the question is, I don't know if it's a great answer. IP used to be one of the safe things you could, kind of count on. Now you can't count on anything. And so we're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and then how does even long-term stability or growth or scalability come into this? Because it used to be that the investments happen where you 10x the company, then you get, that is a possibility, then you get a VC funding. But now you might make it 10x in 1 year, but the second year you don't know if it will exist. And you talked about stickiness. That factor might or might not exist in a lot of these products because it's so easy to switch now, transit, it's mitigate like or migrate into so many platforms. And so do you guys look for these aspects as well? So there's definitely IP now. I'm adding like few elements of scalability and long-term growth. And do you look for those, or are those still important?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think in generative AI, when you're targeting a specific industry, having a market that's not only an available market now, but that's going to be an available market in 5 or 10 years, looking at that growth trajectory, looking at the customer acquisition cost today, as well as the lifetime customer value is important, as well as looking at your team and looking at the scalability of the team and looking at whether you put a team together that is able to scale a company. Some of those are critical factors in terms of looking at long-term growth.
You got to, as a founder, this is your company starting, right? You got to define what you want to do with that. So that defines and motivates how you want to take your company forward. Are you in the long haul all the way to take IPO? Or you're just, I'm going to build something, move really fast, scale it to a point that I'm getting an exit by getting acquired by someone. So that will define, and either way is fine, it's your company, however you want to do it, right? But I would say one thing though, even in the IP issues, there are a lot of, like if you go to a lot of attorneys' blogs and all that, they're talking about various ways you can protect. So IP is not about utility patents alone. IP also includes copyright. IP also includes your brand. IP also includes a lot of things. It can be also trade secret. All of that come under IP sort of umbrella. So any of those vehicles that you can use to have a defensibility approach of whatever you're developing. And sometimes, particularly in specific use cases, especially in healthcare and life science sector, or even fintech, where regulation is very important. And some of those sector are deep assets, deep techs, they're very IP driven anyway. So what you want to do is, like for example, I'll give you an example. In biotech world, they saw very quickly the importance of AI. Because the way molecules are structured, the way our genomic sequence is structured, it's essentially a textual thing, right? And they're very easily machine readable. So that's why you see large PCs, like whenever you see it on stealth mode, AI and drug discovery company coming out with backed by $1 billion investment. That's when they're coming out of the stealth mode. It's a pretty significant amount of money. So how are they positioning themselves to draw such high lofty investment? Number one, I think I totally agree with from the Darwinian Ventures philosophy here. It's all about evolution, and I love the name as well. So I think what is happening here is, so if you just say that I have a model, yeah, everybody is going to come up and say I have a model, and it soon is going to be commoditized. So where is the value? So now, in the beginning, back in 20, just before pandemic, investors started putting money into companies. They're just having an AI model because they were the first mover advantage. But now the shift is very different. What is the end aspect of it? Are you building it all the way to really develop lead compounds? From the heat generation you use your lead compound, taking it to the clinical trial. That is how they're getting seriously high valuations. And then even then, they narrow down their focus, right? Companies like there is a great story of British company Excientia, that just got acquired by Recursion, one of the Utah-based company for $580 billion. And there are mega success stories that are coming out in that space. What are they doing there is they focus on, okay, I'm going to develop something on neurodegenerative disease, or Alzheimer's, or Parkinson's. I'm going to do something with chronic hepatic disease or something like that. And then they start filtering all the data that is available there. They're partnering with the right kind of people to source the right kind of data, because accuracy becomes very important. There is no margin for error there. And once they have that, and they create everything in-house, and they have the data privacy and everything all together, that becomes a strong differentiation. That becomes a strong defensibility of what you're developing. And it also creates a strong barrier of new entrants to enter into the space. And you can ride on that, grow really fast.
Those insights were amazing. I was almost starting to feel bleak about this space, but at least I've given us few examples where people got the right investments. And I've been hearing a lot more. There's a lot of innovations that are getting, or even simple things, if you can prove traction, or if you can prove one or two aspects of it really well, you are getting funding. So that is something that I'm seeing a little bit more positive. And I wish there were simpler times like Darwin, where it's if you make one innovation, you are actually standing out. And AI is like where it's everywhere. And I recently saw I went to get an AI manicure. If you guys haven't heard, there is an AI manicure where robot actually paints your nails. And San Francisco is overwhelming in terms of like what it's able to do. So, but there is definitely opportunity. So now my favorite topic, which is marketing. So I want to get a sense for, does marketing have a role to play in all this? Because technology is no longer a differentiator. IP is no longer a differentiator. Can marketing be that differentiator? Is it how you market, how you brand, how you take your brand forward? Is that, we can start with Prakash. Yeah, whichever, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So,
I'll just quickly say that IP is not totally out of the picture, because generative AI, people that are creating products for various industries can use the applications that they're using in those industries and the customer data set that they're getting in specific industries to write IP, not necessarily the underlying technology. So there's unique ways. My sister is a patent attorney, patent litigation attorney, who's been doing it for 20 years for the top law firm in Silicon Valley. I mean, there's unique ways that you can write patents and create IP out of even generative AI by using the data that you're gathering by creating your company. So there is value there. I'll say that. Secondly, what was your question?
marketing. Does marketing have a big
marketing?
role
What
to
I was
play?
talking about, basically becoming a thought leader in your space, going to conferences, whether it's LinkedIn, going to conferences, and becoming a brand name in your space, creating thought leadership in your space adds a lot of value in terms of customer acquisition.
Yes, I agree with that, absolutely. I think marketing has a huge role to play. And I've always believed that. I mean, even before generative AI. And I almost wanted to say, like maybe even thinking a little bit broader with marketing and thinking like user experience, user interface, marketing, just kind of how the whole brand shows up is super important. Not only for marketing to VCs, right? If you're early stage, if you're early stage, you're trying to raise money, like you're